Folks, this is Sean Brodrick for the Oxford Club, and I'm at the PDAC again, speaking to Amir Adnani. Now, he's the head of Brazil Resources, which is a great gold developer down in Brazil. They recently did a smart acquisition that the market seems to like, and they are just increasing their resources quite a bit. Amir, could you tell my subscribers what you're up to down there?
Sure, Sean. Nice to be back here on the show. Basically, when you look at Brazil, it's a jurisdiction that is top in the world when it comes to mining. A lot of focus has been on iron ore, traditionally in bulk commodities, by companies like Vale and sort of the Brazilian focus companies. But there's actually very large gold potential in Brazil, especially in northern and northeastern Brazil. This is an area of growth. This is an area where a lot of Canadian and Australian and privately held companies have poured capital into over the last few years. And by doing so, they've discovered and developed resources that are attractive. Then 2013 came along, and a lot of junior resource companies were unable to raise money. Gold price fell, as we know, and that's created a scenario and an environment where today it's more attractive and it's cheaper in a way to buy ounces that have already been discovered, rather than to go and take on exploration risk and to drill for more gold exploration.
Which is just what your company did.
Which is exactly what we're doing. So the way we're structured as a company, we're a relatively young company. We're about 2.5 years old, or went public 2.5 years ago. One of the key aspects of the company is the fact that we partnered up with a local Brazilian merchant bank. This has given us really strong local partnership, local sponsorship. Politically, this group is very involved, and financially they're very strong. This is rare to see in the case of a junior resource company, but having their involvement, and this is a group called Brazil Invest, who's based in Sao Paulo, has really given us the ability to attract other institutional investors to the company and make acquisitions. We've made a number of acquisitions over the last 2.5 years, the most recent one at the end of last year. And by sheer acquisition, we've grown our resource base to now, in all categories, of 3.9, just under 4 million ounces of gold, which is a good base, which is a good starting point for the company. These are projects that have had a very significant amount of work completed on them already, so it takes a lot of that risk out for us. And it positions us to be able to possibly make other acquisitions and to be able to advance the portfolio that we have already by immediately focusing on development and not taking on that exploration risk phase of the business.
All right. And one thing that I would mention is that in the 2.5 years that your company has existed, the market obviously likes what you're doing because your share price has doubled during that time. So why don't you tell us about your latest acquisition and how that gave you the flagship mine you guys have now?
Well, the deal that we did at the end of last year was acquiring another company called Brazilian Gold Corp. Brazilian Gold Corp had done a very fine job in raising money when the market was better and really investing that money well and delineating resources, developing preliminary economic assessments, really advancing the assets. But again, just like majority of the market, a majority of the companies that had to face a very difficult market environment last year, they were in a position where they saw teaming up with us and also being part of a consolidation strategy made sense for their shareholders and helped create a bigger entity. And I think the reason why this is resonating with investors is because there's a lack of groups and companies out there pursuing consolidation in a meaningful sense. And what I mean by that is the big companies, Gold Corp might be taking out a Cisco, but these are billion-dollar transactions. In the sub-$100 million space, there are hardly any companies and any juniors that are taking advantage of the situations and the opportunities in that smaller range. And that range, there are very quality assets available, but they may be off the radar screen of the majors. Yet, if acquired and consolidated, can help lay the foundation for a company that can really emerge and become a strong and the next possible powerhouse. And so in my mind, that's what's resonating here, and people are realizing that we're able to show the ability to execute. Investors are seeing that we've executed so far, and you've seen that at Uranium Energy. This was very much what we did at Uranium Energy, and then we took advantage of the downturn to buy uranium assets, and within the span of 5 years we became a uranium producer.
Yes. All right. You guys have 6 million in the bank. Really tight share structure. That's really good.
Yeah.
And you also have a preliminary economic assessment on your flagship mine. So things seem to be moving along. What's the next move for you guys?
Basically, what we'd like to do is we've been updating many of the technical reports that were written on the assets that we bought. So we've just recently completed new 43-101 technical reports on the assets that we acquired by way of our acquisition of Brazilian Gold Corp. We also plan to update the preliminary economic assessment that was done by them last year, establish a new one, also look to do a preliminary economic assessment on our own Cachoeira project, our second project after São Jorge, which is our main project at this point, being more advanced. And so we'd like to de-risk the current projects that we own by advancing them through further studies, further economic assessments, and also permitting. So that's how we're going to de-risk the current resource base. We also will stay active on the acquisition front, and if we see an accretive acquisition opportunity, we won't be shy about going after acquiring it and putting that value back into the company and for our shareholders. And so that's going to be the two kind of pronged approach for how we advance the company.
Okay, nice growing resource. The market likes what they do because the share price keeps going up. I mean, it zigzags like they all do, but it's on the way. They have a nice strategic partnership, which would help with the permitting process and all the other stuff they have down to do. And they're in a nice greenstone belt. Now, we hear about brownfields developments all the time, but these guys, I mean, really, it's kind of blue sky because they find this nice, rich stuff that no one's mined before. And you guys could really find more and more of it. That's like really interesting, I think. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we go?
Well, the last development that a couple of analysts have been commenting on about this company is the fact that when we acquired Brazilian Gold Corp, there was, of all things, a uranium project inside of that company from 2005. And it's a uranium project that is called the RIA project, and it's actually 25% owned by Areva, the French nuclear company. And it happens to be in Western Athabasca Basin, where Fission Energy and a number of other companies in recent times have made some very high-grade shallow uranium discoveries. And it looks like this property and this project that we've inherited in partnership now with Areva is actually very well situated in the same structural settings with geophysics, geochemistry, and previous drilling completed on it, almost $10 million of work completed on it, that now actually is coming out and receiving a lot of attention. Couple of analysts that cover us have come out commenting on this in the last couple of days, talking about the optionality that is in Brazil resources now. That although our primary focus is in Brazil and with everything we just talked about, it's a bit of serendipity, that especially given the experience in uranium that we have, that we now stumble into a very attractive uranium exploration project in partnership with a major company. Again, it was part of the suite of assets that we acquired at the end of last year. The intention was gold, but a little bit of uranium seems to now be really radiating greater interest around the company. And so we'll see what happens with it. But at this point, it's not really, in my mind, priced in. It's really optionality that people are noticing. And it's primarily also because of renewed interest in uranium and strong interest in Western Athabasca Basin around some discoveries that have been made there. So again, it's real serendipity at work, but it just gives more value and optionality to our shareholders.
Okay, great. Well, this is another interesting company we found here at the PDAC. Definitely have to take a closer look at it, and we'll have to follow their story. Thank you so much for speaking to my subscribers, Amir. Thank you, folks, for tuning in. I will be speaking to you later.